A very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us today for the Thursday edition of the show. Promises to be exciting as always. I'm Yemi Adebayo. Let's set the tone with the news making the rounds from this part of the world. We start with the big one, talking about the National Sports Festival, and it is under threat. It is under threat. Two conflicting statements out in the open about what is likely going to happen to the National Sports Festival. On one hand, Edo State's, the host says at noon today, they might be forced to put an abrupt end to what is currently going on in Benin City, talking about the National Sports Festival. And in a swift response, the Sports Ministry also has come out with a statement saying, as far as they are concerned, the National Sports Festival will go ahead as planned. So fingers crossed, we'll see what's going to happen at the end of the day. At some point, we will go to our Benin studio where we're going to get to know what exactly is going on. Let's move on now and talk about the Nigeria Women's Football League Premiership. The regular season has ended, and of course now 6 teams will play in the Super 6 to decide who wins the league and who represents Nigeria in the inaugural CAF Women's Champions League. It's going to be very interesting. The 8 other teams will also play. The 2 teams that finish last will be relegated in the Women's League. All right, so that's the bid for the women. Let's go to what is to many the feast of football. That's the UEFA Champions League. And in the UEFA Champions League, 2 vital away wins yesterday in the UEFA Champions League. But let's talk about this one. Bayern Munich lost to French money bags PSG. Talking about Paris Saint-Germain, the game ended 3-2 in favor of a Kylian Mbappe-inspired side. Of course, Kylian Mbappe got a brace in that game. All right, so those are the major stories from here, and we will be talking about that. All right, before we go into the next segment and before I introduce my partner on the show, is going to be with me in the Lagos studio. At some point, we will go to the Benin studio to set the tone for what has been the big issue in sports in Nigeria, talking about the fate of the National Sports Festival. But let's start with what we talked about. The information as at last night was that the host states, talking about Edo State, saying they might be forced to put an abrupt end to what is going on at the National Sports Festival, citing issues of funds, issues of the support and the commitment from the federal government as at last night. But this morning, let me quickly read out what we got. This was from the LOC threatening to end the ongoing competition. But the federal government has put out, let me see if I can read just about a paragraph. Ministry of Youth and Sports has clarified that the Edo Sports Festival, that's Edo 2020, is going to go on as planned. That statement was signed by Ramon Balogun, Assistant Director of Press, Ministry of Youth and Sports Development, as of this morning. Let me quickly hand you over to my colleague, Cecilia Amoroway. She's in the Benin studio, and she's going to take it from there, and we'll return for more later on.
All right, thank you so much, Yemi. There's a whole lot going on here in Edo State, Benin City, where the National Sports Festival is being held. And of course, this first story that came out last night was all about the fact that, well, the games will be postponed, will be suspended, that will just, to be shut down. That was the statement from the LOC, based on the fact that they said they've been waiting for funds from the federal government. They promised and they had the confidence that the money was going to come. But how many days into the games, nothing is happening. And so from the ministry, Yemi talked about it earlier, concerning the fact that they said the games will go on because they are not even aware that the LOC are threatening to shut down the games. It's more like a drama here, if you ask me, because now we're supposed to have someone from the ministry actually talking about this. But the press statement is sent to us. I'll just read it out for you guys to really understand what's going on. They said if really they want to shut down the games, they should meet with the ministry, sit down, and if they sit down, they can be able to, talk the issue out And of course, the statement went ahead to say that they're also trying to get the funds for the LOC to continue the games. They're working so hard to secure the funds for the games. And if these two things are going on, it simply means that, well, the ministry wants the games to go on, but the LOC is saying that we need money to continue. So if money is not coming out according to the LOC, 12 noon today, the games will be shut down. Now, let me just read the statement from the ministry, continuing from where Yemi stopped. It says the ministry and the main organizing committee, that's the MOC, for the festival, are unaware of any plans or threats by the Edo State government to shut down the sport festival, as there has been no official meeting or communication that relayed such information. The Honorable Minister, the Permanent Secretaries and Directors are on ground in many cities where the festival is holding, and it is expected that the Edo State government would formally invite the ministry for a meeting should any urgency exist around the National Sports Festival, or communicate officially with the main organizing committee, which is the MOC, for the festival. The ministry had no such communication. They went further to say that, for the records, the Edo State government, due to the cost implications of postponement occasioned by COVID-19 pandemic, requested financial assistance from the federal government to the Ministry of Youth and Sport Development. The ministry has since been at work to secure the financial assistance, which it believes is being processed. So the Ministry of Youth and Sport, the Edo State government are determined to deliver a successful national sports festival. That's the statement coming from the ministry, and of course it's signed by Ramon Balogun, the Assistant Director of Press, from the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Development. So it was signed April 8, 2021. So the statement was signed this morning, and from all indications, the ministry wanted to continue while they keep, try to secure the funds for the LOC. Now, this is where the drama is. What if it doesn't happen by 12 noon? Will the National Sports Festival be suspended or not? But the LOC are standing their ground, the loop. They begged, they've asked the government, and they promised that they were going to get them the money. And into the games that they've run out of funds, they don't even have money to continue with the games anymore. So that's where the problem is. They don't have money to continue with the games. And if the ministry is saying that they want to continue with the games, will they provide the resources needed for it? Is a huge question. Well, I will not be doing all the talking alone this morning. I have a guest in the studio, Sylvester Jiwe. He will be telling me more about, just a little bit about this, why financial problems is always a big deal when it comes to organizing sports in Nigeria. Sylvester Jiwe happens to be a former athlete. He ran the 400 meters for Nigeria and all that. He couldn't go to the Olympics. Yes, some things happened. He will tell me the story later. And also, he's a group head, data science. I mean, that's another interesting part about him outside being a former athlete. Sylvester, it's good to have you in the studio.
Thank you so much, Stephen. Glad to be here.
Okay, I mean, I just got to just ramble on talking about the fact that the games that we're happy is finally holding, it's being threatened.
It's a surprise to me. I heard the news this morning, in fact, in your studio here. It was a surprise to me. I was at the venue yesterday. That's at the Ogbe Stadium, which actually looks fantastic. Samogbe Media Stadium is called today, which actually looks fantastic. The athletes are raring to go, and some medals have already been won. It's quite a surprise that there's this threat coming out from Edo State, and this, in my opinion, I would say miscommunication between the two parties who are actually responsible for the successful completion of these games. I believe it will all be resolved.
You're confident. That's your opinion.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that they need to sit down and talk.
Have a conversation.
No need for confrontation.
Exactly.
Just have a conversation, and then the games will go on.
Exactly.
So we're expecting the games are going to go on. Okay, we'll be at the stadium later in the day to see what's going to happen, at this National Sports Festival, because we're really enjoying the games, what has happened so far. Despite some hiccups. I mean, yesterday we watched the tennis. Yeah, you guys will get to see a picture of Kevin Henry. Yes, you remember Kevin Henry. Now, this guy was at the Lagos Open. He won the first leg in 2019. 2020, of course, we didn't have the COVID and all that, so something happened. But he won the first leg of the Lagos Open 2019. He's in Benin City representing Team Delta. Originally, he's from Edo State. His father's from Edo State, but then he decided to compete, for Team Delta. Why? Maybe Team Delta. You know what happened in Delta State anyway. But he's competing for Team Delta. Now, Emery, he had a good match because he won 6-1, 6-1, defeating Shitu Adewale of Osun State. And after this particular event, he said he woke up. I mean, they called him at 8 a.m. in the morning to tell him that he would be having a competition at 9. he was furious. But at the end of it, okay, yeah, I'm happy to actually be here to compete. But he was born in France, grew up in France and everything. I know that he has attended major competitions. There was a time he was ranked 100 and something in the world and all that. He's 26, so he's not like a spring chicken. He's not like a small kid. For him to face that, and he came here and also have the fantastic performance, 6-1 shows that athletes are usually really ready. Well, let's just take a listen to him, what he has to say concerning some of the issues, they're facing. But although he's happy that he's right here in Benin City to represent Delta State.
Feeling pressure now is tough because, I'm just in the first round. The level is not there yet, so I will see in the future matches. But no, I don't feel any pressure. I'm sure of my game, so yeah. I think, we don't have the same facility in Europe and in Africa, so I respect all the players. It's easy to play in this condition for them. They maybe don't have the best coach in this country. They don't have the best condition, like balls, court, all this stuff. So it's not easy for them to improve their game. And tennis is a very expensive game, so if you don't have money, it's very tough to do well, so to play very at the top level. So me, I know I had all this facility in Europe, so I try to give them the hope, but I know it will be difficult for them. So I respect them a lot, and they fight good, so it's good to see it. No, I'm very happy to be there. After, there is a lot of things to improve. The organization is not there at all, They don't know how to manage a tournament properly. So I'm a little bit sad of that, but I know it's like this here. They have to learn. So I try to tell them how to manage a tournament because, by example, this morning they called me at 8 to play at 9. They called me at 8 at the morning to play at 9. It's not normal, So there are a lot of things to improve, but yeah, I feel very proud to be there, to represent my country and to play with my guys. Yeah.
He's obviously excited about that. But at the end of the day, you're excited to play. But if you're excited to play, and of course you're having difficult scheduling, so it simply means that it's a whole lot of issues. So it wasn't the only one. Even Team Edo are finding it very funny and all that concerning of having access to some equipment and everything. I'll get back to Sylvester, after all this. So let's listen to Brian Ebewele, who happens to be the team coordinator of Edo State, talking about some challenges they're even facing concerning this. He also talked about the scheduling also.
We were affected more than any state. We are affected more than any state because as we talk now, we are still looking for some equipment. If we are looking for some equipment now, you can imagine even at the time to prepare, there was no equipment. But we have told them, with condition we are facing here, it's even better than what most states are facing because Edo has a reputation in sports. If we are complaining, you can imagine what other states are, what is going on in other states. So that talking and jacking up, is going to help. It's helping us, and this is not the time for excuses. Everybody wants them to deliver, and of course, you must appreciate the fact that it's only Edo State that is permanent, is engaging athletes on permanent basis. We don't give athletes contract job. If we employ you, you are employed you are on pensionable ground, not come and do festival, you become jobless again. So they are appreciating that, and we must tell them that. Most of them are not from Edo. If your states were employing you, you won't come to Edo. So they must appreciate that the Edo government is doing a lot of job. And we hope other states can even do that. Apart from Edo Delta, I don't really see any other state that is using the festival to kind of take the youth out of the street. If we cannot use the festival to engage sportsmen and women, then what are we talking about? Youth empowerment. If states in this festival, I think Edo State had engaged more than 400 people. I'm sure Delta would have done the same thing. You can imagine if all the rest states in Nigeria do the same thing. You can imagine the multiplier effect. So I think the federal ministry should be alive to their responsibility to say, come with some regulations. As far as festival is concerned, no athlete must compete for any state on contract basis. If you want to use an athlete, employ him permanently. Then that will remove this attitude of double registration, athletes running from one state to collect money. At the end, you go to the festival, instead of concentrating to win, you are concentrating on the over-protest. The federation should sort themselves out. Because by now, federation should have their schedule and make sure there is spacing for athletes to recover after an event. And what we are facing in squash now, we have a Edo athlete that played 2 matches the day before yesterday. He played a match today, and they say he should come and play finals today, whereas his opponent has not played since yesterday. So that's already automatic advantage for the opponent. So we are telling them, right to a protest, we'll use the protest to delay the recovery time for our own person, so the person can be a little bit fresh before he goes to the finals.
All right, we need to go on the break. You just listened to Brian Ebewele talking about some of the issues that we face. We need to go on the short break. We'll come back. Sylvester is still right here in the studio.
Anybody, either official or athletes, that talks about facilities is just being mischievous. You're being economical with the truth. Because as I speak, we have the best facilities. We have the best equipment in this country and stand to be quoted by anybody. They are comparable to anywhere in the world. The same equipment they are exposed to here is what they're going to use in Tokyo. Why do you think the sports minister said a Edo contingent will come to train here and they'll be here until from there they will go to Tokyo? Because he knows what we have on ground. So for any athlete to complain about equipment or facilities, they're just being mischievous. Facilities for training are different from facilities for games proper. So they know it. As I said, they are just being mischievous. They know it. So they cannot be complaining about being exposed to equipment. The one they use for their training, they are as good as any state can be proud of. So the one they have for competition proper, they are the best in sub-Saharan Africa. I stand to be supported on that. As regards rescheduling of some of the sports, it's beyond us as the whole state. It's purely the responsibility of the MOC, the main organizing committee. They decide when game A or game B or game C will be held, the timing and the venue. We have no powers over that. They decide. It's beyond us as a whole state. I think the MOC spokesperson or the secretary, that is, what's his name now, Nelson, will be in a better position to address that.
Before we went on that break, we actually heard from the project media and communication for Edo 2020, talking about the fact that those allegations that were made happen to be the fault of the ministry and all that. The scheduling and everything is in their hands. So the LOC said they're trying to do everything possible to ensure that they are doing the right thing. But then, Sylvester, I'm going to ask you a question. There's something that Brian Ebewele raised, the team coordinator for Edo State, talking about the fact that athletes, athletes poaching, so to speak. Athletes, they leap from one, they compete in a particular state this year, and the next competition, you have them competing for another state. So keeping data and having these athletes stay in a particular state is kind of hard. So if there's a solution like what he suggested, that might just be the way to go.
What Brian Ebewele, who I know very well,
of course,
popularly called the Juju man in Edo State, what he says, I'm actually a benefactor of the Edo system because originally I'm Deltan, but most of the time I competed for Edo State. I was under Edo State payroll as a student then of the University of Benin. So I understand those challenges, but it's about other states actually stepping up to support these athletes. We understand the economic situation in Nigeria. These athletes would always look for the highest bidder to compete for. But in a situation where all states are at par, they are made or forced to go back to their home states and they actually compete for the passion. I was able to compete for the passion for Edo State because when you look at it, Edo and Delta is actually the same Bendel.
Okay.
When I was in primary school, I only knew of Bendel State, but today it's Edo and Delta. So I was able to actually bring out that passion, despite being a Deltan, to compete for Edo State. And there were quite a number of us at the time, and they call us Edo Delta because we're in Edo State, but most of the time we're in the Delta camp, and the Delta camp is always in the Edo camp. So we have this community among the two states. But it's important that all states, or at least most of the states, rise up to that level to support their athletes. And again, that actually reduces the pressure on the National Federation, the Athletics Federation of Nigeria, because most other athletes from other states, at the end of their contracts, rely solely on the National Federation for all the support. So it puts a lot of weight on the National Federation. So rather than executing national programs, they are executing programs to support the athletes. I don't know if you understand what I mean.
I guess it's because their focus is supposed to be on the elite athletes.
Exactly.
Why the states can develop athletes and
at the
grassroots level.
Yes.
Yeah, I get your point. And now I clearly understand why some of these athletes want to be with a particular state. And because of the monetary rewards, you're on the payroll. Once you're an athlete,
yes,
you get employment and you get regular pay and all that. Delta State have actually imbibed that. also, so which is really helping. I mean, which maybe if other states can imbibe it, as Van Bailey said, maybe you wouldn't have athletes actually crying over money when they want to go for international competitions, training and all that. Imagine an athlete qualifying for the Olympics at this particular event now. If he's able to make the standard for the Olympics qualification and all that, and after competing, he's being paid. So he wouldn't worry his head over what he's going to eat, when he's going to train, going on training tour, his vitamins and all that, because he knows the money is there.
Exactly. At least when I was, because I actually joined Edo State after the All-African Games in 2003. That was when I was engaged by Brown at the time. So training for the 2004 Olympics, I was rather focused on my academics and the training. Not thinking of, oh, where am I going to get this to eat? Of course, there's always that challenge of where am I going to get food to eat? But then it was a bit minimized to a large extent because we had our funds. And of course, our parents were supporting us at the time from home because we're also university students. But in a situation where you've got athletes that are solely independent, they look for the highest bidder, so to speak.
Yeah, highest bidder. Yeah, that's the word, highest bidder. Okay, now we'll come to your sport very soon, but before we do that, I met Falila Togunkoya, she was at the stadium yesterday when you have Team Kaduna actually training and preparing for the track and field event, which is going to start on Friday. That's if it's not cut off or it's not shut down by 12 noon today. So athletes were busy training and all that. And of course, Favor Diary, happens to be an athlete who, when I was talking to her, she was telling me about Falila Togunkoya and all that. She's a 400 meters runner, and she says, look, that's the person I want to meet. And while we were talking, Falila was behind us. So she saw her, I'm like, do you know who this is? She was like, no. And meanwhile, she was telling me about Falila Togunkoya. I'm like, okay, so you really don't know. I said, no, I don't know the person. And I said, okay, this is the person we were just telling me about. She shouted, like, really? It was really like an amazing thing for her to be able to meet someone she's aspiring to be. Someone that has actually, kind of filled her, her dreams all this while, and then she doesn't even know her.
Yeah.
That's the one we were talking about. How come we can't even recognize most of these athletes? Before we came into the studio, you mentioned about keeping of data and all that, having, clips of these former athletes, showing it to some of these young athletes to have someone they can actually look forward to.
Yeah. It's really surprising, but that's to others. But to me, it's something I also have first-hand experience of.
Okay.
I remember back in Nuga, was it 2001? My first Nuga Games, that's Nigerian University Games, for those who are not aware of that acronym, because again, it's down to the visibility. We at Nuga Games, we had some elite athletes or semi-elite athletes at Uniben, and we talk about these great athletes. And he was telling us about the great Nuga athletes that represented the country, those that we should expect to be the top knots to crack in our events. And we had one of them just sat in front of us, and he was showing us all of them, talking about that one, and he was just down there. He was talking about all the guys that went for the World University Games, and the guy just looked up and said, I was there as well.
Wow, and you guys were with him, we didn't know.
We didn't know. That was Yakubu Bello of ABU at the time.
Okay, yeah.
We call him Dangerous.
Okay, Dangerous he was. Pictures like these are really heartwarming. Let's listen to, Favor, what Falila actually told her and how she intends to better her times. She said she wants to win, she's assuring everyone that 85% she can actually, get a medal. They start competing with all those big stars and everything. Let's, listen to her.
I was feeling like a star. Seeing someone that I've been aiming, I wanted to see her before, but I've never been to any sports festival. This is my first time. So meeting her, I'm very excited and feeling like, wow, I'm on top. The thing she was telling me is about 400-meter race. Actually, we all know that 400-meter is not an easy race. You just have to train hard for it because the training is not easy. And if you have a goal to achieve in life, you just have to train for that thing so that you can achieve it. So she's trying to tell me that I have to train hard, which I know that, 400-meter training is not easy. I always cry if I'm training for it. But here we are. Just have to put it on.
So what are your chances of winning a medal in this event?
It's 5%.
Really?
Yeah, because I can see many athletes, like senior athletes, but no, I'm not afraid of them because I have a goal to achieve. And I want to see my PB, because I'm looking for a good PB, my 400 meters. So I'm not afraid of senior athletes. I too am a senior athlete.
the organization, they have done very well, for us accepting all Nigerians to come to Edo. We are going to put our best, the officials, the athletes. We are going to do more possible that people in Nigeria will know that this is what we have been praying for the festival to come, and the festival is here to stay. And I give everybody good luck, and athletes, I hope they will do very well.
Right, the festival is here to stay, and also we're happy that it's here. I mean, she was happy. That was before the announcement, and that they might shut it down. Okay, you're a quarter miler, and you know how difficult it is to actually run 400 meters. She's talking about the training and the hopes that she's had, and luckily she just got her mentor, right there at the stadium.
When I think of the 400, I think of it as the most difficult sporting endeavor you can engage yourself in. Why? Because the interesting thing is that it's wrapped around the track and you think it's easy to go around it. But when you think of the fact that if you straighten the 400 meter on the highway, you won't see the end. And you have to run at top speed. You know how difficult it is. When you get halfway, in fact, after your first bend, you're already getting tired. When you get halfway, you're dead tired, no matter who you are. Even the great Michael Johnson, Wade Vanica, they're tired, but they have to fight through the pain for the second half of the race. And then you realize that even the second half of the race, when you're fighting lactic and all that, you're still just about 1 or maybe 2 seconds off your pace at the first part of the race. It's phenomenal that we humans can do that, really.
Interesting. So before I let you, before we wrap up this segment, quickly, when it comes to, medals and all that, yes, track and field is starting tomorrow.
Yeah.
So what should we expect from most of these athletes?
There's one thing I can say. When I was an athlete, or I'm still an athlete to a large extent, I would always go for a personal best.
Okay.
In championship, we go for the medals. But I think the personal best is always the thing to go for, because you never know how well prepared your opponents are. But if you go for the personal best, there's always this internal, intrinsic joy you have that, yes, I did not win the gold, but I did my best. I achieved my best. And that keeps you going. But if you go for the medal and you don't achieve it, you become broken.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's a two-way it is. Okay, before we just go back to Lagos Studio, just quickly look at the medals table. What is looking like? Team Delta are running away with the medals as of 7 p.m. last night. They're running away with it. It's followed by Team Bayelsa. And, of course, you also have Team Edo third. Team Edo, they've just won 3 gold medals. 2 of the cricket and, of course, the cycling. That's where that was coming from. For Team Delta, 15 gold medals already. In total, 26. For Bayelsa, 12 gold medals already. We know where most of those ones coming from, swimming and all that. In total, they have 22. And, of course, they don't have 25. But then, because they have 3 gold medals, that's why they are there. So some other states are yet to win. Lagos is just 1-1 and all that. Kaduna, they're yet to win. So when a track and field events happen, and today we're going to be having lots and loads of activities, kickboxing, swimming, so many finals will be decided today. And of course, we should know who we climbed up in the medals table. Sylvester, thank you so much for coming on the program this morning.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
All right, thank you for joining me right here in Benin City studio. Back to you, Yemi, in Lagos.
Thank you very much, Cecilia, for those updates. Stay with Channels TV. By noontime, we should be able to tell you whether or not the sports festival will be cancelled or it will go ahead. But, of course, it is our hope that Nigeria's mini Olympics will not have an abrupt end. Let's move on the show. Let me quickly introduce my partner in the Lagos studio. Later on, I'll introduce another partner who's going to be with me. I'm going to crisscross the entire world of sports in the few minutes we have left. But Daniel Obugo joins me now. Daniel, greetings to you. Thanks for being here with me today.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
All right, let's just quickly talk about the ladies before we talk about the UEFA Champions League, which is very, very important. Because of the April 25 deadline by CAF, the NWFL has decided to adopt a Super 6, a Super 8 model. Super 6, top 6 teams will play in a playoff format to determine who wins the league and, of course, who represents Nigeria at the inaugural CAF Women's Champions League. Then the bottom eight, of course, will also play. Then 2 teams would drop off into the lower cadre. Dana, let me quickly reel out the names of the teams in the top 6. You have Bayelsa Queens, Delta Queens, Rivers Angels, Edo Queens, Sunshine Queens, and of course FC Robo. These are the top 6 teams. I mean, what can you say about the NWFL? They've adjusted to all the issues, COVID-19 compliance and everything. You have to praise Aisha Faladi and the board, and even the clubs, for how they all work together and have had to adjust to a lot of things.
Yes, but when you look at it, there are a lot of challenges. But I must give it to them, because when you talk about the NWPFL, information is never hard.
Yes.
Information is never hard.
They always put it out.
Always put it. After every match, you see stats, you see everything. So you have to give it to Aisha Faladi, like you said.
Guessing.
Yeah, they don't keep you guessing.
They don't allow you to start interpreting.
After the match, you see match report and you are good to go.
Yeah.
But again, excuse me, but again, you look at it and you say, they had to rush the league.
They had to.
They had to rush it. And the Ghanaian, our Ghanaian counterpart, they had to drop their lists. You know, I think they put it in because of the deadline of 30th. So, which we've dropped ours, but I think it's been good. The league has been, like I said, you always want to get their information as soon as it's out. And for me, it's a good one. And most importantly, the inauguration of the CAF Champions, the Women's Champions League is a good one. And I think when such things start like this, Nigerians always do well.
All right. All right. We hope that Nigeria will do well. All right, let's go straight into the big one that happened yesterday. And also, we'll do our best to talk about Thursday night football as well. But let's take a look at the results. 2 vital away wins for 2 teams. PSG, some said it was going to be, PSG was going to be out for revenge. They got what they wanted. They got what they wanted. And FC Porto were no match for Chelsea. Chelsea did enough to win that game. Daniel, let me get your thoughts quickly, before I bring in Kenny Bamidele to also join us. He's joining us from Europe. But I want to get your thoughts with what you have on your screen. Any surprises?
Yes.
It looked a bit too easy.
It looked a bit too easy, but
PSG.
I'm going to start with the PSG game, because when you look at it, you have to ask yourself, maybe since Lewandowski was not in that team, because after the match, Muller came out to say if they had won 6-3, nobody would complain, but they didn't do their best to score. And of course, when you have guys like Mbappe and Neymar back, you always know that we'll expect a high-scoring game. But I didn't expect
PSG to win in Munich.
To win in Munich. That's 3, taking to Paris, 3 away goals. Massive. And I think good one for them. Maybe the second leg, we'll just see them take control of the game and not run over.
Okay. Second one, quickly.
Second one, not after that defeat over the weekend, you know, Tuchel had to change his team. We saw Chilwell in for Alonso on the right, Azpilicueta as a wing back. And they looked enterprising, they look good, and good one. But that goal, sweet, but again, it had to be Zaidou Sanusi that was...
you have to bring that in.
Yeah,
okay.
so but...
All right. Okay, let's leave it at that for now. Let me quickly bring in and allow him pitch in and have his say on the show. Kenny Bamidele joins us from Ibadan. Great to see you, Kenny. Thanks for joining us on the show. Let's dive straight into it. Your reaction to the results in the UEFA Champions League.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me this morning. First of all, looking at that Chelsea game against FC Porto, we saw what happened on Saturday when West Brom annihilated, Chelsea. Nobody actually envisaged that one. But going to this game, that was more or less like a reality check for this Chelsea side, and that even put them in the right stead. Hey guys, we are not unbeatable. I mean, facing a side like Porto. I know what Porto did to Juventus in the round of 16. Nobody actually predicted that one too. Almighty Juventus that had the likes of Ronaldo in their team, and FC Porto throw them out of the tournament. So I believe, Chelsea were aware of the threats that, Porto posed in that game, and they went for it. They were very direct. The first 20 or 25 minutes, it was FC Porto, dominating with shots and everything, but it was more possession, lacking penetration. So, but I believe Chelsea were very direct. They got the first goal, and they showed that they hung on until they got the second goal with that lovely finish from Ben Chilwell. But just like, your guest just said, Zaidou Sanusi, that goal scored by Mason Mount, was a superb turn to slot the ball into the bottom corner. So Chelsea, good one for Chelsea, and it's looking like this one is done and dusted.
Since we're talking about Chelsea, let's listen to the Chelsea manager, Thomas Tuchel, talking about the victory and how important it was for them to secure that win.
I have 1 foot or half a foot or no foot. It's half time, and I mean, we experienced what can happen in football last Saturday. So I feel a good atmosphere in the dressing room. We are happy, but not too happy. We are excited, but not overexcited. It was hard for us to create touches in the box. It was hard for us to find the right rhythm to attack for a long time. Second half was a bit more controlled than. We started very well, but yeah, overall we escaped with a very, very good result. But it's quarter-final, and we have to keep on going. It will be necessary to have another top performance and top mentality on next Tuesday.
Thomas Tuchel choosing his words carefully. That's what happens when you get your hands burnt to you. You're excited, not too excited. There has to be that balance. Let's go to Thursday night football and quickly let's take a look at the fixtures, and we'll hear Bami Dele and Daniel talk about it. But let's see what's going to happen today. Some teams playing. Ajax Amsterdam will be up against AS Roma. Arsenal will be in action. Manchester United will be up against Granada. All of these fixtures in the Europa League. Then, of course, you also have some. There you have it. Arsenal up against Slavia Prague. Dinamo Zagreb will be up against Villarreal. Granada take on Manchester United. Then Ajax Amsterdam take on AS Roma. All of these teams desperate for victories because a trophy in the Europa League is a ticket back to the UEFA Champions League. Quickly, before we go on the break, let's listen to the Manchester United manager, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Okay, we'll do that after the break. We'll do that immediately after the break. We'll listen to the Manchester United manager and, of course, continue with our discussion on the UEFA Europa League and, of course, give you a slice of basketball before we take a look at the papers.
and the winner is Bishop.
All right, I said we're going to listen to the Manchester United manager, so let's just listen to him give us updates about his team as they prepare to face Granada in the UEFA Europa League.
I can't disclose the team now, of course, we're not going to do that, but Marcus is travelling and we've just got to make a decision tomorrow if he starts or if he's on the bench. He's definitely, or I don't think he'll be a 90-minute man. So let's see where he's at tomorrow. Of course, we've analysed them ourselves and watched the last few games as well. And it's a team full of experience, unbelievable character and spirit, which you expect from teams that come up. They got promoted in summer 2018, did a great season, and or was it 18-19? Great season 19-20, and this is the second season, and even I think they're one of the teams in Europe that have played the most games, and to do that at this level so early has been impressive, and we know it's going to be a battle.
All right, so that's it. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer giving us updates on his team. All right, Daniel, let me come to you. I do this to you a lot, but I'm going to do it again. You know, if you have a crystal ball, what do you think is going to happen tonight? 4 games, possible scorelines.
But first, let me talk about this Granada team. You know, Granada are the best thing to happen in European football. June 2019 promoted back to La Liga. June 2020, best La Liga finished 7th. December 2020 qualified for the round of 16, and February 2021 beat Napoli to qualify.
Bottom line, they should be taken seriously.
They should be taken seriously. And Manchester United, if there's any team who can spoil your run, who can just be there and just say, okay, if you are coming here, put your start aside, that's Manchester United. So I think it's going to be a very, very dicey match. But coming to Spain, I just hope Granada will do the needful. And Ajax, come on. This is a very, very tough team. They fear nobody, you know, and an attacking team as well. In their league, they are just up there. No one comes close. So playing against Roma, I think it's going to be a difficult match too. I see Ajax to taking that one.
Okay. Arsenal?
Arsenal. Well, no, even though they don't do well in the league, definitely they'll take this one. And the last game...
Zagreb, Villarreal.
Zagreb, Villarreal. Villarreal, under a manager who has won, who we call the Mr. Europa, I think it's... Unai Emery. I think it's going to be a straight win for them, and I think with a lot of goals as well.
Okay. All right. Daniel, very smart answer from Daniel. No scorelines, clever predictions. That's it. Playing it safe. That's what Daniel is doing for me. All right, let me go to Kenny. Let me go back to Kenny Bamidele. He's still with us. Kenny, your parting shot on the show this morning. By the way, I want to say it's a good debut. I love all the things that you've said. But your parting shot will be the NBA because I know you love basketball. So let me just quickly run through the results. Then you give me your thoughts in a minute or two before I let you go this morning. So let's take a look at the NBA results of matches played. Minnesota Timberwolves defeated the Indiana Pacers 141 points to 137. Washington Wizards, led by Russell Westbrook, and he has become a triple-double machine. And Bradley Beal returns to that team. They defeated Orlando Magic 131 points to 116. New York Knicks lost to the Boston Celtics. New Orleans Pelicans lost to the #1 team in the Eastern Conference, the Brooklyn Nets. You have Dallas Mavericks losing to Houston Rockets 93 points to 102. Charlotte Hornets defeated Oklahoma City Thunder. San Antonio Spurs lost 96 points, 106 to the Denver Nuggets. Then you have the Utah Jazz and the Phoenix Suns. Both teams are first and second in the Western Conference as we speak. Utah Jazz in losing to the Phoenix Suns in overtime. It was a slugfest, 113 points to 107. So, Kenny, let me allow you to talk about it, but with particular reference to the Brooklyn Nets, what they did, and of course, that slugfest between the Utah Jazz and the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, starting with the Brooklyn Nets game, of course, what does you want from Brooklyn Nets than to get a win against New Orleans Pelicans? And of course, we all know how star-studded they are so far. Kyrie Irving, for me, is that man since coming back from injury. He's been knocking everything for Brooklyn Nets. And, when people, the hate on Brooklyn Nets nowadays is getting too much. Many people are not really happy because they are star-studded, because they feel they have that easy ride to winning the NBA chip. But I think, it's beyond all of that. You can have a star-studded team, and at the end of the day, you fail to win the championship. Looking at Kyrie Irving, top-notch basketball player. It's a different thing for you to perform well in the regular season. The playoff is a different ball game entirely. I remember last season, Milwaukee Bucks had a very smooth regular season performance, but when they fumbled, and that was against they were dumped out by Miami Heat, who finished the runners up in the final against the LA Lakers. So believe me, the Brooklyn Nets, more still to come from them. Kevin Durant, still in that team. You have James Harden. The one thing about these guys is that when two players are absent, one can always come and win games. Kyrie, he can give you 40, 30. Any big figures, name it, Kyrie will give you. And for the Utah Jazz game, for me this season, they are one of my best teams. In fact, I'm a big fan of Utah. Because of their performance this season, I had to switch from OKC to Utah Jazz. I'm looking at what Rudy Gobert, Chris Middleton, Bogdanovic. These guys are doing pretty well. And of course, the coach has also, I think one thing about Utah Jazz is that they have worked on their three-pointers. Donovan Mitchell is not really known to be a three-point scorer, but he can give you a certain...
he got 41 in the last game.
Yeah, very well. That's so ridiculous coming from. So I'm looking at how this team play together. There's this kind of chemistry. It's a different thing for you to have good players, but how about how they are connecting, the communication between them? And Utah Jazz have all of these. For me, Utah Jazz and Brooklyn Nets, I'm looking forward to them ahead of the playoff.
Okay, I want to thank you, Kenny Bamidele, for your time on the show today. Hopefully, we get to do this some other time.
Thank you very much. No problem.
All right, so let me read a couple of tweets before we take a look at the papers. I don't know how far we're going to go with the papers, but it's going to be unfair if I don't read your tweets because you've sent it in, even though we didn't prompt you today, as funny as it is, but you've sent it in, so I think it's only fair that I read a couple. Ogufo Abosun says, it's going to be unfortunate if the sports festival is truncated. I'm not reading it in full, but that's the gist of what you're telling us this morning. AGK says was really looking forward to a smooth national sports festival. A lot of us were really looking forward to that. Hopefully, nothing will change. And of course, Law Alpha C says Chelsea displayed uncommon character, strength, and courage to be able to rubbish Porto's spirited efforts. He also commented about the sports festival. He says it should not be discontinued. Unfortunately, the power is not in our hands. The federal government and Edo State need to sort things out. Let's look at the papers now and see how far we can go with the papers. Let's start with Complete Sports. Daniel, still with me in the studio as we prepare to wrap things up on the show this morning. Quickly, we'll take a look at Complete Sports. You have a lot of interesting stories. Eagles sold to highest FIFA ranking in 6 months. MDD. The NHL will continue to deliver. Probably that's going to be the only paper we're going to take. Your thoughts on that one as we prepare to go?
Eagles ranking good. I don't put too much reference on the ranking.
But you have to because of the World Cup qualifiers. It's going to be useful.
It's going to be useful, but then it's like we don't.
It doesn't really matter.
It doesn't really matter, so to speak. So, but Kelechi, I think Kelechi is having his best form.
All right.
Contract renewal and all that. So. Oh, well, and good for him.
All right, so good for him. Daniel, I want to thank you for your time on the show
always
today.
A pleasure.
Time not always our friend, but we'll get to do this some other time.
Definitely.
All right. We also had Sporting Sun and Sporting Life, but we couldn't, because of our time, we couldn't review those papers. Just to let you know, we had them in our kitty. That's the show for today. We do hope that you've enjoyed everything we did today. We'll be back again tomorrow. I'm Yemi Adebayo. Bye-bye now.